Hello, this is Mrs. McCullough. This is the third lesson in our series that readers make inferences. I have our anchor chart up here, and what we talked about last time was we talked about how we use our reading voice, the one that collects the details, and we also use our thinking voice, the one that thinks about what the text is saying. And so we read the text, we read a question, or we think of a question, or teacher gives us a question, and we use both of these voices at the same time. When we do that, we have a brand new idea. That's an inference. And we talked about the inference silhouette. The head here is the silhouette, and that we collect details from what the text says around the head. And then we do our thinking. We think of things that go together. When I see this and this, it reminds me of. We see patterns. We think of memories. We think of relationships. Well, when this happens, it means when this happens, so does this. So all of that thinking is in the head. And then when we have our inference, the new idea, it's listed here at the bottom. Okay, so today I want to add on to this concept. And I'm going to use a new anchor chart because this one is getting full, isn't it? It has a lot of stuff going on here. So I'm just going to remove the first anchor chart that we talked about. And now I'm unveiling a new one. So readers make inferences. We've been talking about that. And there's an and to it. What? Yeah. See, we collect the details, have the thoughts, have the inference, and then after we do that, we write about it. Yes, readers explain the inferences in writing. They explain what their thoughts are. Now, you guys, don't hear the word writing and be like, oh, I hate to write. No. This is easy. This is so easy. As a matter of fact, you've already done the hard part. You've done the hard part of the thinking. And so I'm going to show you just a very simple formula to use when you're doing the writing. So when we do the reading part, we collect details first, do the thinking, and have the inference. But when you do the writing, here's the secret. The inference is actually what you write down first. That will be your very first sentence. And it is a sentence. So I'm going to make sure I put a period right here because we have a period at the end of every sentence. So your first sentence is always listing the inference, the big thought that you had. But you need to be able to prove your thought with details. And we collected a lot of details, the details from the reading voice. But when they prove your thinking, that's when they become evidence. And maybe you've heard your teacher say that in the past. You have to show evidence to support your thinking. That's what she's talking about right here, okay? So which details did the author give you that best supports your inference? And that is your second sentence. But just proving it with one detail, it could be a fluke, right? That's not enough evidence. You need at least 2 pieces of evidence. So guess what? You're going to have another sentence. Your third sentence will be another detail that supports your inference. And so it's evidence. And you may have heard some of these fancy terms. Your teacher may have had you use some of these when you were providing your evidence, like the text states. That'd be for the first piece of evidence. And maybe for the second piece of evidence, you start with the text also states. There are a couple others. Proof of this is a second example. And you know what? There's a lot more than that you'll use. The author states. The picture shows. All of those words and phrases help show that you were actually using information from the text. So those are some of the sentence stems that we'll use. Okay, so let's try this out. I want to actually go back to one of our previous texts that we had. Remember this one? Yeah, we did this one together. Okay, so I'm going to share my screen. And here is the picture that we saw of the kids getting things from the chocolate fountain, right? And so we made an inference. We actually collected details, but it was just done orally. And so what I did, let's see if I can set this up here. What I did was I wrote down all of those thoughts from our previous lessons. I went in and I wrote down the things that we were talking about, and we said, so when we looked at the picture at the very beginning, we noticed that there was a chocolate fountain with marshmallows and strawberries and cookies and bananas, and the girls and boys were helping themselves. Remember? Let's look at the picture again. Remember? See that? Okay, so back up here. So then we noticed what people were wearing. The boys and girls, dress shirts and a tie, fancy dresses, flowers in their hair. Their hair was all pulled up, and they had curls in their hair. And then even the adults were dressed up. The man had on a suit jacket. Remember? Kind of like this, a jacket. Then we noticed there were pink decorations and pink clothing. So when we start to look at those things, we started to put details together, and we had inferences. We noticed that when there's a chocolate fountain with all these kinds of things, it's a dessert table. And that when people are all dressed up like that, it's probably for a special occasion. And then since there was pink clothing and pink decorations, there was a color theme. And then when you have a dessert table with people helping themselves and it's a special occasion, everybody's all dressed up and there's a similar color running through it, we thought it might be a wedding. And that was the question. Where are these people? Maybe at a wedding. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to use these details and teach you how to write about it. So I told you right off the bat, first thing that we put down in our writing, the inference. That's the first thing. See, over here, inference. That's going to be our first statement. But now we need to collect some details that we think might best help us support that this is a wedding. Okay, now we've got like 12 details up here. It's too many. We need like 2 to 4 to 5 to support this. This is what we're going to do. So let's look. What would be some of the most important pieces of information that help us understand that it's a wedding? Well, when I start to look at it, one of the things that I picked up on right away was that the girls and the boy, they were helping themselves to the chocolate fountain. Now, that is something that really keyed me into, this is kind of a fancy party, right? Something that's really fancy. And that you do that at weddings. You get up, you walk around, you go get the cake and help yourself, some of those kinds of things. And so let me show you, if we were going to do our writing on this piece of paper back here behind it, this would be our first sentence. And then our details that help prove could be a chocolate fountain, a boy and girl helping themselves. So what other details do you think really helped us the most? I'm thinking that since all of the kids were really dressed up, like the boy was wearing a dress shirt and a tie, and the girls had on fancy dresses, and even their hair was all pulled up and they had curls, I'm thinking those might be some of the things that best helped us figure it out. So I'm going to put these down here, okay? And now I'm going to show you how we turn this into sentences. This is for 2nd and 3rd grade. You can write in sentences. I know you can. So now let me show you. If my question is, where are these people? And I don't know their names or anything like that. I'm just going to say, these people are at a wedding. Period. I wrote my inference. Period. Okay. now I've got some details from the text, from the photo, which was our text, okay? And so I'm going to use a sentence stem that's made for a photo. Let me see. The photo shows a boy and girls let's see here. A boy and girls helping themselves at a chocolate fountain, right? That's where they were, at a chocolate fountain. Okay, so now I've used those details. I've got my second sentence, but when I look at my anchor chart over here, those are the details that turned into evidence. I didn't use all of them, just the ones that I felt most likely represented that they were at a wedding. But I've got to have at least one more sentence. So now I'm going to come back over here, and I've got dress shirts and tie and fancy dresses and their hair pulled up and curls. And so I'm going to use a sentence stem. The photo also shows the girls in fancy dresses, okay, with their hair, move this out of the way, all pulled up and curls around their face, around their faces. Okay, so now I've got, oh, you know what? I wanted to put this together in one sentence. The photo also shows the girls in fancy dresses with their hair all pulled up and curls around their faces. And the boys, I'll put a comma, and the boy is wearing a dress shirt and tie. Period. Okay, so that's all about their clothing. These people are at a wedding. The photo shows a boy and girls helping themselves at a chocolate fountain. The photo also shows the girls in fancy dresses with their hair all pulled up and curls around their faces. And the boy is wearing a dress shirt and a tie. So I have to check on myself. Did I have an inference statement? Yes, I did, right here. Did I have two sentences that have details from the text? Yes, I did right here. And I used some of those sentence stems. The photo shows, something like that, okay? So see how simple it is? You've already done the hard part. You've already done the thinking. So now I think we should try this together, okay? I'm going to flip this up. We already did that writing. Just flip this up and over. And let's look at a second example. So remember the text? Let me show you the text first. Remember the text when we did animals in camouflage? Yeah, remember this one? And we were looking at the picture, but we were also reading the details, okay? Reading the text. Well, we collected things on our Inference Silhouette, and I've got it here for you, okay? Here it is. So now I'm going to set this up here. And just as a quick reminder, we noticed in the picture it was brown and that the owl would rest by day, but at night it would come out. We collected all the details, right? Wings spread wide, high in the branches. It takes flight. It'll swoop to scoop up prey. And we thought about these. We thought about how this means they're nocturnal. It's a large bird and it's a carnivore because it eats. And we came up with the owl, okay? So we did this first part right here. We already did it. So now all we need to do is pull out the details to help us with the writing part. So what comes first in the writing? That's right, your inference, remember? Okay, so I'm going to pull that off, and I'm just going to go ahead and stick it back here for when we're ready to write. Okay, so now, what do you think? What would be some of the best green details? That's the detail, green details. What would be some of the best details that would provide evidence for our inference that it's an owl? Okay, so let's see. That whole idea that it rests by day and it sleeps at night, is that what you were thinking? Yeah, I think that's a big deal because owls really are nocturnal like that. That's not very many birds behave in that way. So I think you're right there. What else do you think we might pull off then for a second sentence to really prove that this is an owl? You think about it for a minute. You want to say something about the wings? The wings spread wide. And it was all in that one sentence. Let's go back to the text for a minute too and look at it. With my wings spread wide, I silently swoop to scoop up my prey. Yeah, so maybe both of these here, one from one side, one from the other. Is that what you're thinking? Okay, so now I'll move this out of the way. And I'll put our sticky notes right here. Okay, so that then we can turn them into sentences. First sentence is the inference. That's what it is. And so you don't want to just say owl. Okay, that's not a complete thought. We need a complete thought. The animal is an owl. Okay, that would answer the question, what am I? The animal is an owl. Okay, good. Now, how do you want to start this next sentence? All right, we've got some of these different pieces here. The text states, proof of this is, a second example. Well, we haven't even done the first one, so we can't do the second one. The text also states, same thing. That needs to come for the second sentence. So you think we should say the text states? All right, let's do it. The text states, what would come next here? The text states it, let's do day first. Don't you think that makes more sense? Because day, then night. Okay, the text state, it rests by day. Now, you notice those little marks that I put in? I'm doing that because that's exactly what was stated in the text. Now, the photo, I didn't do that because really it was images and our eyes were looking at it and our mind was kind of making up what the words would be. But these words, they're really in that book. Like I can touch them with my finger. So that's why I want to put it in quotations so that when somebody reads my writing, they know it came directly from a book. The text states it rests by day and comes out at night. Putting that in quotation marks because that was in the book, right? At night, I take flight. Okay, so now what would our next sentence, if this one says the text states, you want to try a sentence stem that says the text also states? Okay, let's do that one. The text also states it, and we can move some things around a little bit, okay? So it's, how about that? It's wings spread wide as it flies to scoop up prey. Think that makes sense? Okay, wings spread wide as it flies to scoop up prey. All right. Guess what, guys? We did it together. And wasn't that super easy? The animal is an owl. The text states it rests by day and comes out at night. The text also states its wings spread wide as it flies to scoop up prey. So we had our inference, a sentence. We had a detail. I had a couple of details, really, but one sentence. You can combine some of the details in one sentence. And then we had our other sentence with our detail and our evidence. So that's it. That's it. See, you do the hard part in the reading and the thinking. It really wasn't that hard. You were good at it, okay? And then you follow the formula. You list your inference first, and then your other two sentences are details from the text that prove your thinking. Now, I would like for you to try this on your own. And so I actually have a little packet here, and let me show it to you on the screen, okay? I wanted to give you some practice with this, but I also want to give you some support. And so look at the image that's on the screen. Yeah, that's our anchor chart. And so it's there to help remind you that you can explain your inferences in writing. And remember, collect details, have thoughts, have an inference. But then when you're writing, you actually list your inference first, then your evidence sentence, and another evidence sentence. That's why you've got the punctuation over to the side. Okay, so I didn't want to leave you high and dry. I wanted you to remember how we did this. So here's the picture of the kids at the wedding. And here are all those details, the green reading voice, the yellow thinking voice, the inference listed here. And here are the sentences that we just wrote on my anchor chart, okay? Then, let me go just click. Then here's the animal one that we did together. And I've got the words in the quotation marks so that you can actually show that it came right out of the text. Then I've got a couple more. Remember, we've been talking about this unicorn. Yes, we've been talking all about it. And so what you want to do is you want to list your inference first. If you forget, go back up to the top and look at the anchor chart. List your inference first. So that would be the pink. Then pull out some green details. So when you get here, here's your first sentence. Which details best prove that it is his special day? Okay, and then we've got one more. We've got one more from the book, the one about the polar bear. And so that's your inference sentence. And then the other two sentences, you can combine some of these details. Which ones do you want to put together? Okay, so we're only talking about the pink and the green in this assignment. That's all we're talking about today. All right, guys. So that would be the assignment I would have you do if you were going to practice writing about your inferences. But check with your teacher because your teacher might have an even better idea.